What if I told you that with just a few changes to your routine, you could feel stronger, more energized, and healthier without sacrificing your career or family time? Welcome back, everyone, to the Healthcare Wayfinders podcast, where we are routing you to more accessible and cost-effective healthcare. I'm your host, Zach Aten, and in today's episode, we're diving into the essential guide to strength training and nutrition, specifically for busy working folks. My good friend Noah Renz is here to share his expert insights on how small, manageable adjustments to your fitness and diet can make a big impact on your overall health. Whether you're juggling work, family, or both, this episode will give you actionable strategies to optimize your strength and nutrition, no matter how busy your life gets. Let's dive in. All right, everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for listening into the Healthcare Wayfinders podcast. I've got my good friend Noah Renz here with me today. We're going to talk about all things being healthy and investing in your health through strength training and nutrition and some other ways. Really excited for him to get to share his story. He's super qualified in his own right. He's got a bachelor's in exercise science and a master's in nutrition and human performance. And he is also one of the coaches at my local gym that puts me through the paces. So Noah, welcome to the podcast.
I'm glad to be on. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, let's start off. Love for you to talk a little bit about how you got into exercise science, nutrition, really about helping people live health at just a higher level. Love to hear your background and how you got interested in that. And then we can jump into some of the stuff we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. I think long story short was when I was about 14, I had a condition that happened in my knee, OCD. Basically, the cartilage died. And because of that, all my sports for about a year had to completely cut out and I couldn't participate. And so that was just, as a kid, you love to run, climb, jump, be in soccer, basketball, whatever you're playing. And so basically going from 100 to 0, that just was definitely very defeating. And so it was probably about, I can't remember exactly how long, 6 weeks on crutches. And then you're just very limited, probably 3 months before you can start biking, 6 months before you can start running. It was basically a year before I could start doing sports again. But it was during that time where my dad decided, he's like, hey, you really can't do anything. Let me take you to the local gym and just start showing you things. And so I remember it was the YMCA, and we'd always been there a lot of times. We used to just be a young kid, go hang out in the back playground. And then as you get older, we started moving to the main fitness area. You're doing the circuit, the 12 circuit machines, and you're tracking your points and all this stuff. And there was always this back room, this intimidating back room that nobody went into except for these meatheads. And so I always just kind of look back there and see these guys. And the trainer always told me, he's like, don't worry about them. They're going to tell you like false things about drinking protein shakes and all this stuff. And so I always had this connotation in my mind.
False.
What is this room? What is this place? What's going to happen? And when all this went down with my knee, my dad took me back there and just gave me a tour, walking around, just kind of showing me the different machines. We just did some workouts and stuff. And I still remember to this day, the first day there, me just not really paying attention, being clumsy, and just completely bumping into somebody's bar who's bench pressing and like throwing them off, which like, if you've been in the gym, it's like, it's a big no, but it's what happened. But I remember from there, it just started this trend of like me enjoying not just like lifting, not just the effects of it, but the process of it. And so I remember that first year when I was like 14 to 15, I gained probably about 15, 20 pounds just from lifting. Obviously you're growing at that age too. But just seeing the progress from that, seeing the transformation, even when I really couldn't do anything else, much any sports or anything. And so that just created this catapult of me loving the process of something like that. Now I know health is much more encompassing than just lifting weights and getting stronger, all the components of that. But I did love that part and that degree of it, of continuing on and just getting stronger, feeling better, and having some goal markers that you could work towards. And my knee eventually did better. I was able to hop into sports. Praise God, to this day, like the knee's still doing great. And that's been giving me no problems. But from there, it just always knew in the back of my mind, I was like, this is what I want to study. This is what I want to learn. This is what I want to go in depth with. And then in about 10th or 11th grade, not too long after that, I remember having this idea of I really want to study nutrition. And the reason behind that was I remember when I was younger too, you're seeing all the fitness models and you're seeing all these people and you're like, I want to get in shape. I want to look like them. And I remember one of the big ones at the time was Shaun T's Insanity. You got the DVDs, the whatever else it was on. And I remember like Googling, like, how do you get in shape like Shaun T and using Insanity and not have to worry about nutrition? Like, it's so funny now, like just knowing what I know now, obviously that's not going to happen. But I remember looking up like different fitness routines where you don't have to worry about nutrition, just thinking like that could be done. And that was just
because we want to eat everything.
We want
to eat everything.
We just not want to worry about stuff, want to eat everything. And so it's just funny to think back of the ignorance of that, of just thinking like what I didn't know to now what I know. And obviously that has to be a huge component, but just thinking, no, I can just move my way into shape. And from there, I just continued to progress the knowledge of that. But mainly I really wanted to study nutrition because there was people close to me. There's people I saw in the gym, or there's people who I knew who were intimidated to continue on, or intimidated to go to the gym, or just did not know where to start. In the back of my mind, I was like, okay, people are struggling to go to the gym. People don't know how to start implementing things. But I was like, what is something that people do every single day? I'm like, everybody eats. Like, you're eating whether you enjoy it or not, or whether you know what you're eating or not. Like, you're eating food every day. And so I was like, I really want to study nutrition at some point. I didn't know then how it was going to play out. It was my undergrad or master's or whatever. But I was like, I knew I wanted to study this at some point because I want to help learn this better so I can help these people just be able to start with something. People who don't know how to go to the gym, people who are intimidated about the gym, or people who maybe are at the gym but making no progress. I'm like, I want to do this because they're going to eat every day. That can be implemented every single day. And so that's where I started tailing on the side of I wanted to learn nutrition as well. Fast forward, I got opportunity to go to school, and they didn't really have a nutrition program at this school. And I knew I wanted to continue to learn the science of it, or the exercise science component. So that's where I studied exercise science. And I had the opportunity to go to another school studying the master's in nutrition. So I was able to get both of those components. But then since then, pretty soon after I finished my bachelor's is when I started Go Performance, and have been there ever since, just implementing things, enjoying the process of it. And just the same way as that 14-year-old loved the process of like building muscle and gaining strength, and just the journey of it. Like, even more so now, it's just like an ever evolving science. And there's basic principles and there's basic knowledge to it that can be implemented every day. But I do enjoy that it's continuing to evolve, and just get to learn more and help bridge the gap of the complex and the simple, and help people to mend those together.
That's so cool. Yeah. Shout out to Go Performance, Peachtree City.
Yes.
Best gym in the world. Yeah. No, I love what you were talking about that, honestly, because the person that you were just describing was totally me. I'm a business professional. I've got a family with kids, and I want to be healthy. I want to be strong, but I'm like, when do I have time to plan out workouts, plan out stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
How do I make sure I stay safe in the gym? Like, I'm not doing something wrong.
Right.
So like that type of having somebody like a coach who could help me with that and who could offload a lot of the organization and let me just show up with my commitment to progress. That was super helpful for me. Can you talk a little bit more about the benefits of, I guess, just working with a coach?
Yeah.
Or how do you see that whole process of helping people who maybe are on the fence about jumping in the gym or jumping on some weights, or how they would do that? How would you coach them?
No, that's good. Yeah, I think the two components of it, as you're trying to speak to everybody too, I think that there's some people who have access to a coach, can afford a coach, need a coach. There's those people. There might be some people who may be missing some of those. Maybe they can't afford a coach. Maybe they don't have access, but get a buddy, get a friend, get a mentor, get somebody who's going to hold you to that as well, to make sure you're going to the gym. But I think everybody needs a coach to help them progress in areas that they're missing. If you look at some of the most elite athletes, 99.9% of them have a coach. There's even elite bodybuilders, they're having coaches. And these are bodybuilders. They've been doing it for 10, 15, 20 plus years, They know the knowledge, they know things. But what can happen, I think, is you can convince yourself otherwise. That's the dangers, I believe, of not having a coach. You can get to the point where you think, I actually don't need to go today. Oh, actually, I can skip this set. Oh, actually, I'm actually hungry today. I probably should eat this extra food today. And so that's where the coach is. There's some motivation component of it, and I do believe that's very powerful. But there's really just someone who's telling you the process, someone who's telling you the plan, and being like, "This is what you need to do. Let's stick with it and follow through. Otherwise, you'll convince yourself otherwise." And so I think that's the power of a coach, and something that I love to help people with as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I'm just thinking back to all the times where I've been in the gym and you're like, Zach, you're doing that wrong. You need to do this.
Yeah.
And it's thank you. I would have hurt myself, especially if I'd like started going up in weights from that bad form, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, I need someone to help me make sure I don't get hurt, because then that short circuits the whole process
100%.
of my goals around. For me, I just want to be healthy. I want to be able to pick up both of my kids off the ground and not hurt myself, and do yard work at the house and not have to take the next day like resting. It's a thing. It's a thing. Yeah. So I find that super valuable. But I love what you were saying about, even if you're not in a place, whether you don't have a program like that around, you can just get some accountability with a friend or somebody else who can help you stay on your journey. Because what I hear you saying is a lot of it sounds like consistency.
Yeah, I think like consistency is going to trump everything, especially with, I'll have people all the time who, one of the common questions I'll get a lot with nutrition is, hey, when should I take this supplement, or when should I eat this, or should this be the most optimized, thinking about the timing or the best time of day to work on all these things. There's a lot of ways to optimize things. You take a supplement, there probably is the best time of day, before, after a meal, or during a workout, yada. But honestly, I always say like consistency is going to outweigh all of that. If you take a supplement at the most optimal time, but you miss 5 out of 7 days during the week, it's not going to do much for you, versus you take it at a suboptimal time, but you're having it every single day. And so that applies to a lot of things. Think for training, people are like, I didn't feel great, or my mind's not really into it today. I didn't really want to come. But you're here. This is awesome. You're here today. Proud of you for doing that. And so the consistency component is a huge factor. And I think that's where the accountability side of a coach comes from, where it's, hey, what's up? Haven't seen you in a while. You doing all right? Or the opposite can happen too, where a coach can help to then scale, where someone may think, oh, like I'm not feeling great, but I know consistency matters, so I just need to go in. But that's when a coach can see, hey, you're worn out today. Things have been going on. You're a little tired. Let's configure this where you get the best optimal workout for you today. And so that is a huge component to nutrition, to training. The benefits of a coach as well is helping you maintain that consistency as well.
What do you see in your experience as the top reasons that someone should invest in, let's just say, just strength training in general, like consistent strength training, whether you're working with a live coach or a buddy or an app or something like that? What's some of the top reasons why that's beneficial? And we'll tie that back to the nutrition side as well.
No, I mean, if you just look at like health sides of it, you got your top ones, your bone mineral health, your bone density, your mineral health. You've got your cognitive, side of it, where strength training just really not only helps with brain health, but helps de-stress. It's going to help increase your muscle mass, which is going to help with your basal metabolic rate. There's a plethora of just benefits to just strength training in general from the health side of it all. But even more so than that, it creates a level of discipline that I think transfers to many other areas in your life as well. And I really think of the gym too as one of people's main places that they're going to. It's basically their third place, their home, their work. And then a lot of times it's gym or church or different areas, but it's like people are there often. I'm with clients. If I train a client one-on-one 3 times a week, I'm with them 3 hours every week for years on end. That's a lot of time that I'm spending with those people. And so I just think there's so many benefits because that becomes an integral part of your life that's going to now transfer to other areas. So it's like, hey, I'm learning the discipline in the gym. I'm learning to go even when it's hard. I'm learning to go even when I'm tired. But I'm having to set up all these other components so that I make sure I'm getting to the gym. I'm setting up my schedule well, making sure I'm getting my sleep well. There's this big guy, what's his name? Entrepreneur, Gary Vee. He would talk in the past where when he was being trained by his trainer, Mike Vacanti in the past, he had him training him, like living with him in New York City and just training him all the time. And one of Gary Vee's rules was, I'm going to have no days off, basically. So every single day, there was a day, it might just be a mobility day or just a walking day or whatever it is. But he learned, if I implemented this, it's going to set up the rest of my day for success. And that doesn't mean every single person has to do that. But I do think there is a component where if you wake up, you're lagging, you're tired, you go to the gym, it's going to give you energy. And then you've already accomplished something. And you go the rest of the day and you're like, this is awesome. Now I feel great. Let me accomplish all this other stuff. Let me work hard at my work now. Let me go do things for my family, whatever it may look like. And so there's so many other life components outside of just the health side of strength training that does add so much to it as well.
Yeah. And I guess my follow-up question on that's going to be, I think a lot of times people might go to the gym and strength train, but then we don't think about the other side of things, which is what are we eating, the nutrition side, right? Or how we eat. Or we think that because I went to the gym, I can eat whatever I want and still stay healthy, lose weight, and all that kind of stuff. Not to be like the bearer of bad news or the truth teller here, but why don't you tell us a little bit about why nutrition is so important, especially in combination with strength training?
Right. Yep. I found out quick that my program I was Googling and looking for did not exist, that I could not have the fittest body without implementing some sort of nutrition.
Yeah.
Strength training is vital and like pivotal and like very important to cognitive development and just longevity and health and all these different things. It's like nutrition's everything. And what I mean by that is you could decide to stop strength training for the rest of your life. You could do that. You can't go that long without eating. Like food is fuel for the body. Exactly. You're not going to have a life. And so I think people will even go to the gym because they then want to eat whatever they want to eat. And they're like, I'm going to work it out. I'll work out. It's justifiable. Yeah. And they've even done studies on this where the compromised side of the brain, people will now eat more unconsciously past that because they just knew that they worked out. And they did a study with people who didn't work out. And they did work out. They set them in the same room with the same amount of food. People who did work out, naturally, they ate what they burned, and then they ate more than what the people didn't work out. So like they were net negative compared to the other people. And so it's just like the compromised side of our brain is going to convince us that like we're okay because we worked out. And so I think there's a lot of downfalls to that. One, you're probably eating food that's not great for you if you're not really thinking about it. Two, you're not going to now recover well from the work that you did in the gym. Like you work in the gym to create this progress that starts the moment you leave the gym. It's not like I did a bench press and then awesome, that means I'm going to do more tomorrow. So no, you create a stimulus, but now you have to feed that stimulus to then adapt the next day or the next week or whatever the timeline may be for you. And so you can't just get away with hoping, I bench, so hopefully I'm good the next day. And that's where the recovery is a huge component as well with that. But just the discipline of it as well, that's a huge part of it, where you have to make sure if I'm disciplined in the gym, I also want to or should be disciplined outside the gym. And that includes my eating. And I 100% think that's harder than going to the gym. Like very rarely do I see people who are super dialed in with their nutrition and can't get themselves to go to the gym versus someone who can go to the gym all the time, but they just can't control their nutrition. So I think it's a huge pivotal piece that needs to be implemented.
What would be some resources that you would guide people to? Because I, at least speaking from my own experience, it's like I have a certain history with food. I know how to make certain food from my family of origin. How do we learn? or at least my journey, a huge part of it and the effort especially was just like learning how to eat better or how to prioritize certain types of food. What's the process for somebody who hasn't ever prioritized this in their life, but is interested in growing and doesn't want to just do like a fad diet, but actually wants to like build habits and knowledge that can serve them?
That's a great question. I think when you say fad diets, I think diets work for two main reasons. One, there is a process. So it's usually like a start and an end, like whether it's a timeline or these foods you can eat. But then number two, there's usually some sort of restriction as well. And I think those two components are very pivotal in most people's process of what nutrition should look like. There should be like a process, like a timeline, a season, a goal you're working towards. But then there will also be some level of restriction. And that doesn't mean like it shouldn't turn into a lifelong thing where I'm doing this forever, because you really should be. You should learn how to just eat well and do that for the rest of your life. But there is some level of restriction. That's why diets work so well. But then what happens is it doesn't turn into a lifelong, because people either hit their goal or they get to the end, or they miss what was restricted, or they don't like the foods that were in the process, and then they're done. They're like, I'm out of here. I don't want to do this anymore. What's the next fad diet? Or they didn't see progress that they thought they were going to see. So then the diet no longer is working anymore. But those two components can be pulled out of the diet and then just implemented into a lifelong healthy eating. And so the process I like to say for people just kind of who are completely new, have never thought about nutrition at all, I'll just say, hey, start cooking food at home, because there's a good chance you're not. And so learn how to cook, watch some people knowing how to cook. And the nice thing is too, is if you've never cooked at home, you don't do it. And any cooking you're watching is probably some Gordon Ramsay or something fancy. And so that's overwhelming. You're like, I don't have time for that. I don't want to do that. That's expensive. So like, why do I do that? So no, go to YouTube and just start looking up simple, healthy meals I can cook at home, and just look up, what can I use in a crock pot, an Instapot? What can I make in one pan? What could maybe be prepped for a few days and I can microwave the next few days? What doesn't have to be cooked? What can I make that doesn't have to be cooked? There's so many options. People have been doing this for so long now. Like, there's a plethora of healthier recipes. And I would say start eating at home, or start cooking at home. That doesn't even mean you have to eat at home. But then the second component is just start eating whole foods. We probably hear that a lot. We're thinking like, I don't know, what does whole foods mean? What does whole foods mean? But really just start with your basics. If your body's able to tolerate them, if you don't have any big restrictions, I'm eating some healthy meats. I'm eating my fruits and vegetables. I'm eating some rice, some potatoes, some oats. I'm adding in some healthy olive oils, some avocado. So you're just really thinking of your main simplified food groups. And you're thinking like, hey, if I went to basically a farmer's market, what would I see there? I'm not going to see Lay's potato chips. I'm not going to see this frozen TV dinner. What am I going to see?
No processed foods. Yeah.
No processed foods. Exactly. And so I just want you to think, okay, when you go to a grocery store, you've probably heard it all the time to walk around the perimeter, which sometimes is the case. Sometimes that's not always the case with foods. But if you just get those simple whole foods and just start making those simple meals that you're looking online for, and start implementing those, and just get over leftovers, people. Learn to enjoy leftovers. That's what I'll tell people too. It's like, the reason you don't like leftovers is probably because you're eating out all the time. It's just make some food, eat it for 3 days, and trust that it's going to be good for you, because it will be good for you. There's two components to food. There's eating for fuel, then there's eating for pleasure. And the goal is to learning how to mesh those. So I'm giving my body the fuel I need, and I'm also enjoying at the same time. But there's going to be times where, hey, these next few days, I'm just going to eat for fuel. It may not taste good, it may not be okay, but I'd rather have this outcome of the benefits of what it's going to give me, versus that instant gratification of eating something that I know is probably not good for me, and I enjoy it for 20 minutes, and I feel bad for the next few days, or it impacts the rest of my life as well. So those are the big ones where I would just say, start looking up simple, healthy, easy cooking, non-cooking meals. Trust that you can cook, start eating at home, and then just start eating whole foods as well. And then I would say the component to that, because usually the opposition is, well, I travel all the time. I'm running kids to and from places, and we got sports camps and all this kind of stuff. And there's people who have also utilized all that as well. Like the beautiful part of today is you can utilize AI, use ChatGPT, and literally put in your situation. I'm trying to eat well, and my travel schedule does not allow for cooking at home, but I want to eat whole foods. What could I get at a gas station? What could I run into Kroger and grab? What would be helpful if I'm going to get Chick-fil-A? Like, what's some good? You set your parameters and your boundaries, but then you remember that there's a little bit of restriction, and that's okay, because that's when the restriction component comes in. You realize if I go to Chick-fil-A, I can't just eat whatever sandwich I want. There may be some restriction to that as well, because I know I have this goal in mind. So those are the things I would start implementing if someone's fresh off the street with nutrition.
Oh man, don't say you can't eat Chick-fil-A. We've got a lot of Chick-fil-A folks at our gym.
I love Chick-fil-A. Will always.
I love Chick-fil-A.
So I'm just saying, don't eat three sandwiches, guys. Maybe just 1.5. Yeah.
Maybe just one.
Maybe just one.
Yeah. And get the fruit side. Yeah,
the fruit side.
So, yeah, I love everything you're saying. Talk to me a little bit about what should somebody do if they're trying to be healthy, they're trying to lose weight, and just trying to make a lifestyle change? How do you see, it feels like you were saying, walk me through what they should prioritize.
Yeah.
I feel like I heard you say start with the nutrition or the consistency first, but if somebody is trying to make this change, is this something that somebody can do in a year?
Right.
Should they look at it more as like just making incremental stuff over time? How would you coach somebody?
Right.
As far as the process of changing their life? Because that's really what this sounds like. Is it's not just getting a membership and you're good. It's, I'm actually making lifestyle choices that are investing in me for the future.
Yeah. So if there's someone who's sitting at home, not working out, not thinking about their nutrition, and I said, hey, you're on day 0 and you want to look, feel better, feel different at day 365. First one I would say is, hey, you got to start moving a little bit, not just to move, just to lose weight, not just to move, just to be moving because it's the fitness thing to do, but it's like your body wants to move right now. We are creatures of movement. That's how we were built. We're built to do things, and our culture and society is not really set up for that anymore, but that's a huge component. You're just going to automatically already feel better by getting some movement in. So, it's, hey, start where you're at. If you have a way to track your steps, what does that look like? Oh, I'm only getting 2,000 steps a day. Awesome. This next week, you're going to get 5,000 steps. And that's week 1. Now just say every week beyond that, you're just implementing one small habit, one small change. I always say, don't go all out at once. And I know there's a lot of people who feel like you got to go all or nothing. Problem is we go all out, we can't accomplish everything. And then we go back to 0 again because we feel like we've failed our current protocol. So no, you haven't tried to implement all these little by little. And I think that process is more effective long-term as well. If I got something in 8 weeks, I got to go all out. Awesome. Go after that. But it's like long-term process. We're looking at a year out. So you start adding some movement in down the road at month 1, month 2, whatever it is. That's when you'd start looking into potentially a gym membership, maybe a coach, somebody who's now going to get you into strength training, because we do need walks. We do need movement like that, but you got to get some strength training in as well, which we talked about has all those different benefits. But then you start thinking about nutrition as well. Hey, what's one thing that I'm not doing that I can start to implement? So this is week 2 now. Okay. I'm not drinking a lot of water. Awesome. I'm going to track my water. I'm going to look at that. I'm going to start drinking it. Week 3, I'm going to start cooking at home a little bit more. Awesome. Let's cook at home. Week 4, I eat out at a lot of different restaurants. I'm going to start looking at those restaurants ahead of time and seeing what would be some good things that I should start to eat as well. Look online. Most restaurants have a nutrition profile on their website, and you just start to build out and you're adding on. So they're building on top of each other, those different small habits. So I think you're adding some movement in, you're adding some nutrition habits, eating your whole foods. Then you can start to add all the little biohacking things if you want to. You're getting a water filter. You can get a red light therapy. You can get all these different health things. And do I think you need all those? You do not. But what do? They create the implementation of those habits are going to help the main habits stay put where they need to be staying put. I'm sure we've all experienced them. Think of a day where you wanted to go to the gym and something came up and you couldn't go to the gym. And you're like, I missed it. Maybe that happened a couple of days in a row. And then think of all your other habits that kind of succeed that as well. Your nutrition's off. You're not thinking about going outside and getting movement or getting sunlight. You're not thinking about drinking your water. You just fall off of that habit routine. Versus when you start implementing those things, you start to think about, oh, hey, I want to check all these boxes. I want to make sure that I'm getting my water in for today because I worked out. I want to make sure I'm getting my nutrition in for today because I worked out. I want to make sure I'm sitting in front of a red light because I want lower inflammation because I worked out. Yada. And so they all kind of start to build on one another. And so that's why adding in small things like that, wearing blue light blockers at night, taking your supplements, not eating at past 8 p.m., all those things that maybe they do help things be more optimal. They're not essential, but they do help things be more optimal. They do keep the foundation. They do help keep things where they need to be. And so I would just tell someone, continue to build out from day one to every week. So you're basically, by the end of the year, you might have 50 new habits potentially if you build them out week by week and you just start writing them out. What am I going to work on this week? What's this week going to look like? You start adding things in and trust, hey, day or week 52 is going to be better than week 1. And just knowing that process will get you maybe not exactly where you want to be at that point, but it's going to get you closer to that goal as well.
That's great. I love that. Thank you for laying out that whole plan for somebody. Mm-hmm. Dude, Noah, really appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about strength training and nutrition and how important it is for us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
All right, buddy. You have a great day. We'll see everyone next time.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach.